From blood all is brought forth, and to blood all shall return, said the first necromancer to dig their hands into the backs of dead titans to try to harvest as much of their blood as humanly possible to use in their unholy deeds. And that is what we shall be doing today, as well as we will be stacking as much bleed as possible with this League Start build guide. Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, this is going to be the League Starter that I chose for 1.3 Beneath Ancient Skies. So, whenever people ask me, hey Dread, what are you going to be cycle starting next patch? And I always tell them, patch notes. Well, the patch notes are out, so I no longer have an excuse. Let's talk about what I'm going to be League starting. It took a little bit of deliberating this time. I was thinking about playing one of the newly fixed classes like Necro, Lich, or Beastmaster, but then a specific item caught my eye, and that's going to be this pair of Primordial gloves. Now, I've played Infernal Shade in the past multiple times. I've played, the Bagel-lock. I've played so many different versions of Infernal Shade, and I'm excited to play another version of Infernal Shade, and this time with a twist. Instead of trying to go for as much ailment chance as possible, like you can see in the footage here, like I did in the original build, we are going to be going for as much bleed as possible, and that's because of these gloves. Carrion of Creation is a primordial pair of gloves. Remember, you can only have one of these primordial items. It's on a really good base, the Eternal Gauntlets, and it has a 157% chance to bleed, which is a good start. It has 100% of Ignite, Frostbite, Shock, Time Rot, Damned, and Poison chance converted to bleed chance. All of it. Malin's Hubris is crying in the corner. We're simply going to scale as much generic bleed damage as possible. Also, it has the lines, when you kill an enemy, it has a 47% chance to explode with primordial blood, dealing physical damage to others around it. So not only do we get to convert all of our damage to bleed, we also get to have explosions on kill, which everyone enjoys. And that primordial blood gets a bunch of bleed chance based on the bleeds on the enemy. So very much so, like a lot of bleeds, right? The reason why we like this so much is you can get a very large amount of these ailment chances from Warlock, specifically Warlock, right? Now you could play this as a Lich in theory, but I'm going to go Warlock mainly because I want to go Infernal Shade. Infernal Shade, as you know, there are ways of popping it utilizing Chthonic Fissure, as you can see here, one moment. Chthonic Fissure can pop the Infernal Shade, and then once that Infernal Shade gets popped, it will create a combustion, and that combustion is a large AoE, which will apply a very thick dot. It's not applying that many dots, but it's applying thick dots. And we can get more damage here. That's 200% more damage, 72% more damage, 60% more damage, 20% more damage, or a chance for it, another chance for 150% more damage, and then 16% more damage. And then a chance to get a second Infernal Shade on the boss popped, thanks to, how Legion interacts with Return Below, because of these two interactions. Infernal Shade is just a very good vehicle for ailment stacking, which is good to know. Good to abuse this with, right? Because we're trying to get as much bleed as possible. Now, there's a lot of different ways of abusing this. So let's look at the passive tree here. First things off, we can look at Lich. We have another 100% bleed chance here. We could probably get rid of this, to be honest, actually. Now you think about it. Now I'm thinking to myself a little bit. We can actually go into the bleed duration here now that we have some extra points. It just took me a second to think of how we're going to actually get to there. There you go, some bleed duration, right? And we can also get all of the bleed inside of Warlock. Yes, you heard that right, bleed, because all of these ailments are getting turned into it. So we get bleed here, we get 100% bleed here, 100% bleed here, and then that's a lot of bleed already. But then we go to our blessings, that's 100% bleed, that's 100% bleed, that's 100% bleed, and we go here, that's 30% bleed, 30%, 30%, 30%. It's 150% on the unique, then another 70% on the helmet. This is another 80% chance to bleed, which is cool. Another 50% here, and all of this combined leads to a lot of generic chance to scale bleed. But the ace in the hole, the thing that really propels us into a new infinitum, is going to be the Plague Bearer's Staff. Plague Bearers has been an item that's existed in the game for a while now, and it's because poison hasn't really been that good. But thankfully, we can turn all of that poison into something more usable. This time, we're turning it into bleed. Right now, this staff represents 500% chance to bleed with those gloves, and it also gives us 20% more damage with our damage, that we already do a lot of damage, right? We also have an implicit of increased damage on that as well, and then it's also a melee weapon, which will trigger our Titan's Heart, so we can run this instead. All of this combined leads to us about having maybe 1,300 to 1,400% chance to bleed. I don't know the exacties, but like that's around the number we're looking at. And that's every single time we hit with Infernal Shade, it will apply 14 very juiced, very large bleeds. And that is a lot to start. That is a lot of damage to start off with, which is great. I will say though, my goals for this character is to simply take it from level 1, get all the way to like 1,000-ish corruption, farm it for a bit, do my Weaver's Tree, do my Primordial stuff, make a bunch of currency, and then simply work on other characters, because there's been way too many Primordial uniques for me to sit on just one character, mind you. So we're going to try to keep it fast here, try to, get through stuff fast. But this should be a pretty comfortable League starter, because guess what? I've already done it with this character. So we have precedent, and I'll simply just take this character and then play Bagel-lock like normal, and then convert it all into bleed with these gloves, and then we'll scale it even further. We can get bleed duration here, and then bleed duration on the tree. Then we can get bleed penetration on our chest, and then bleed penetration on our helmet. All of this combined leads us to having a lot of bleed damage. And then, as well, we can look at our skills. Infernal Shade, Chthonic Fissure. Bone Curse is some extra bleed and extra penetration with Mark for Death. Great. We also get Transplant for just mobility. And we also get Rip Blood for mana sustain. I'm not entirely sure if I need this or not, but I might. And then we also have access to, Blood Bond. If this actually ends up being good, that'll be cool. I doubt it. And we probably might actually ditch Rip Blood for Aura of Decay, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. We'll figure out what we're dumping it for when we get there. Maybe Spirit Plague for more bleed chance. Who knows? We'll dump it eventually, maybe. It depends how much mana we actually need with our character currently, because that's the biggest thing, is mana. Because one of the biggest benefits of running not these gloves is you get to run the minus mana cost gloves for Infernal Shade, but these gloves are so strong that I think it overwhelms that significantly, especially its interaction with Plague Bearers. Like, these two are a match made in heaven. These are the items that I plan on getting before I'm finished with the character. If you're wondering, like, this is just like maybe at most a few days for me. This won't take very long whatsoever. The idols might take a while, to be fair though. But yeah, this is the character I'm going to be playing. This is the stuff I'm going to be doing. If you have any questions of how I'm going to be league starting this properly, I will just leave a link down below to this video, as I'm going to follow it pretty much to a T. I might change it here and there, but it's just going to be followed. Like, it's just the same kind of concept. It's just, instead of doing all of these extra ailments, as you can see on the top of the screen there, we're just going to be doing bleeds instead, which will just end up being better overall, just better scaling. Way more generic scaling, and we can scale that even further with duration, and it'll feel very good. Trust me, it'll feel very good. We don't get access to Ghostmaker for the on-kill Infernal Shade cast, but we do get access to Carrion. So Carrion should carry our clear pretty easily, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, this will be very enjoyable, a very enjoyable league start. Everyone likes bleed pops. Everyone likes bleed. I like ailments. I like Warlock. This is going to be my league starter. I was going to play something like Summon Bear, maybe, or some other kind of skill, but I thought that it would be way more fun to start with this, and then play a summon bear build with a lot of investment, and then play a different build with a lot of investment. I was also thinking about running a fire frost claw setup with wildfire embers or something like that, but then I realized that like now I want to play with the carrion gloves because they're just that fucking cool, man. But yeah, links for all this stuff will be in the description. With all that being said, this has been Dread, off to go do something else. Bye.